Hello, and today we will be talking about the surface area and volume of prisms. First off, in order to be able to find the surface area and volume of prisms, we need to know what the lateral faces are and what the bases are. The lateral faces for all prisms, they are all the rectangular sides, and they are not the bases. So over here in our diagram of this hexagonal prism, if you notice along each side we have rectangles. Each of these would be a lateral face. Here, because it is a hexagon, we end up having 6 lateral faces, which I just highlighted. Okay, so those are all of our lateral faces. Bases. The bases of our prism are the congruent faces in parallel planes. So we're going to look for the two sides of our prism that are parallel to one another and that have the identical base, or that have the identical shape. So as you can see, we have a hexagon and a hexagon. They are parallel to one another and they are congruent. The basis is always going to be whatever shape you're using to identify your prism with. Since our base is a hexagon, we call it a hexagonal prism. So the lateral area of our prism, it's exactly what we would assume it would be. The lateral area of our prism is the area of all of our lateral faces. Well, those are all just rectangles. So to find the lateral area, we can take the perimeter around our base and times it by the height. So P is the perimeter around the base. That works because if we view our net as this being completely unfolded, okay, so if we unfold that hexagon, we just have one very large rectangle, and we would just need to simply times it by the height, and then we would have the area of our lateral, of all of our lateral faces. The surface area then is the total area. So here, the surface area, we are going to have to start with our lateral area, which is perimeter times height, and then we're going to have to add on the area of our bases. Well, here, our two bases we already said are congruent to one another, so we would have to add on 2, and then B, where B represents the area of the base. Okay, so that's how we're going to go about and find surface area without having to draw the net out for the diagram and without having to find the area of each face individually and then add them up. And then lastly today we will also be discussing the volume of a prism. To find the volume of the prism, volume is equal to the area of the base times the height, where B is your area of the base and H is your height. Recall, whenever we are finding heights of things, they always need to form a 90-degree angle with our base. Okay? So when we go to find the surface area and the volume of our prisms, one of the first things we're going to want to find is the base, because that is a common theme in both of the formulas. So now we'll do some examples using this information. So I'm just going to rewrite the two formulas we had. Surface area is the perimeter times the height plus 2 times our bases, and volume is the area of the base times the height. So on here, on this diagram, we are going to find the surface area and the volume. So I'm going to give you the fact that J is 25, K is 16, and m is 9. So what we need to do is we're going to find the surface area first. We need to find the perimeter of our base. Well, our base is the triangle, because our two triangles are the two parallel sides, and we need to find the perimeter. Notice the right angle. Since that is a right angle, we can then find the third side. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. So we have 16 squared plus our other side squared should be 25 squared. 25 squared is 625. 16 squared is 256, so we're going to subtract the 256 over. And so we have b squared of 369. And then when we take the square root of that, we get about 19.209. So that is going to be our third side. So n here is roughly 19.209. And we'll keep about 3 decimal places until the end so we can get as accurate as possible. So now the perimeter, we'd have to add up 25 plus 16 plus 19.209. So when we add 25, 16, and 19.209, we get a perimeter of 60.209 times the height, and we see here that our height is 9. Plus, now we need to take 2 times the area of our base. Well, our base here is a triangle, so 1/2 base times height. So on the triangle, we have to identify the right angle. And our base and our height would be the 2 sides surrounding that. So here's our right angle, base and height. So we would have to take 1/2 times 16 times 19.209. And so for the area of our base, we get 153.672. So 2 times 153.672. This will be our surface area. So now we just need to figure out what that is. So we're going to take 2 times our base, and we're going to add on our perimeter, which is 60.209, times the height, which was 9. And so our surface area of this prism is 849.2. We'll go to the nearest tenth. I did not give you units here, so we will say units squared. Squared because we're finding the area. The volume formula is the area of the base times the height. Well, we already found the area of the base right here, so 153.672. And we also know the height of our prism from right here is 9. So we just have to take 153.672 and times it by 9. And we get the volume of our prism to be 1,383.0. This would be units cubed because we're dealing with a volume. So that's how we're going to find surface area and volume. We'll do another example. Here we have a rectangular prism. We see rectangular because we have our 2 parallel bases here are rectangles. So the surface area is the perimeter times the height plus 2 times the area of the base. And the volume is the area of the base times the height. So we're going to start off with finding the surface area. And in this, I'm going to tell you that x is equal to 12.5, y is equal to 20.5, and z is 30. Okay, so I'm viewing the 2 highlighted rectangles as the base. So if I want to find the perimeter of the base, I'm going to have to take 12.5 times 2 and then add on 20.5 times 2. Or, of course, you could take 12.5 plus 12.5 plus 20.5 times 20.5. But regardless of which way you do it, you get a perimeter of 66. And this time, our units will make the units meters. So the perimeter is 66 meters. The height here is going to be the distance between the two bases. So right here, we have a height of 30. So my surface area will be my perimeter of 66 times my height of 30. And now I want to add on 2 times the area of my bases. Well, my base is a rectangle, so I just have to take base times height. So in this case, 12.5 times 20.5. So when we take 12.5 times 20.5, we get 256.25. So we will take 2 times 256.25 for our 2b portion of our formula. So when we take 2 times the area of our base, and then we add on our perimeter times our height, so 66 times 30 plus 2 times 256.25, we get a surface area of 2,492.5 meters squared. Next up is volume. The volume is the area of the base times the height. Well, we already found the area of the base right here. So we have 256.25 times the height we already decided was 30. So we're going to times that by 30. So when we take 256.25 and we multiply it by 30, we get a volume of 7,687.5 meters cubed. So that's how we would find the volume of that rectangular prism. Last but not least, we will do a hexagonal prism. So once again, the 2 formulas we are working off of. Surface area is perimeter times height plus twice the area of the bases, and volume is the area of the base times the height. In this case, I'm going to tell you that the perimeter is 48 feet, and we have a height of 16. So in this case, our height we can locate should be this x, so I'm going to fill that in with 16. And if we have a perimeter of 48 feet, we simply need to just divide that by 6 to get the length of each side. So each side is 8. So here our y would be 8. Well, since I gave you perimeter and height, we already have for the surface area those 2 values. So 48 times 16. Now we need to add on twice the area of the base. Well, this base is a regular hexagon. So our regular hexagon formula is 1/2 perimeter times the apothem. 1/2, well, we already know our perimeter is 48. We now need to figure out what our apothem is. So remember, we're going to find the apothem, so the distance from the center to the edge, and we're going to create that right triangle. Since we know that each side is 8, and we're just viewing half that, so this half side would be 4. And then recall to figure out that angle up there. We have 6 sides, so we divide by 6. 360 degrees by 6 to get 60 degrees. But that would be referring to the entire triangle. So we have to divide that by 2, and we now get 30 degrees. So we have a 30, 60, 90. Because it's a 30, 60, 90, we can use our relationship of x squared of 3 and 2x. So since 4 is our short side, our apothem is our longer leg, so the apothem has to be 4 square root of 3. So we can fill that in for our apothem length. So the area of our base would be 1/2 times our perimeter of 48 times our apothem, which is 4 square root of 3. And we get an area here of 166.2768. So I'm going to call that 166.277. So we're going to fill that in. And I'll actually just be using that exact value right on my calculator, the answer button, when I go to find the surface area. So we're going to take twice the area that we just found, so 2 times our 166.277, and we want to add on our perimeter, which was 48, times our height, which was 16. Doing so, we end up getting a surface area of 1,100.6, and this is feet squared because our original units were feet. Okay, and then lastly now, we want to find the volume. Volume is the area of the base times the height. Well, we already found the area of the base. The area of the base is 166.277. And the height we already decided was 16 because that was something we were given. So when we take 166.277 and times it by 16, we end up getting a volume of 2,660.4 feet cubed. So essentially, in order to be able to perform finding surface area and volume, you are going to need to be able to follow the formulas correctly and find the areas of any of your given bases.